World War II might have been a legitimate reason, but one of the things you have to remember is that the U.S. paid the debt down very rapidly after World War II. We aren't seeing the same kind of discipline now at all. And there really isn't much else a government should go into debt for. I mean, you go into debt if your very existence is threatened. But beyond that, government's got cash flow, and like everybody else, it can save out of its income, just like I save out of my income, for various things. And since it's got a bigger cash flow than anybody else.
My guess is, however, you've gone into debt for a number of things. I imagine you didn't pay cash for your house. There are a lot of people who cannot pay cash for their college education. And if you're in the hospital and you need something, or you need to buy a car so you can get to work, you're going to go into debt for that. I find those to be pretty reasonable reasons to go to debt.
That's a very different issue. And the reason that's a different issue is that if you choose to go into debt, then a third party, namely the bank or whoever is making the loan, is passing judgment on your fitness to pay it back. Will you pay it back? You get one chance. If you don't pay it back, nobody lends to you again. But
and there's also something put up for collateral. That is, you don't pay for your house, we're going to take your house back.
College education.
This is why I like to go to vacations and put that on the credit card, because what are they going to do? Take my vacation away?
They take your credit away. You get one free vacation and then you're done.
I could use one free vacation.
But government, that's not the case. I mean, the scary thing about the debt crisis now is the obvious thing that's going to happen is, oh, we're so far in debt we have to pay it back by raising taxes. And that game has been played over and over and over again. What happens, of course, is they raise taxes, increase their cash flow from tax payments, and never pay down the debt. Ultimately, what's going to happen is the markets are going to stop taking government debt.
All right. This is where I start getting confused. So let's take it slowly in a way that even I can understand. Okay. So we go into debt because the government goes into debt.
That's not me.
No, trust me, I go into debt as well. The government goes into debt because it spends more than it takes in.
Correct.
And so it goes out and issues bonds. That is, it says, here are promissory notes. We're going to pay you back. Please give us money, and so we can spend it now. Is that roughly how it works?
That's roughly how government works.
All right.
And it's going to pay it to the holder of that bond.
So we're going to pay interest. And right now interest rates are wonderfully low. So we go to China and we say, please, here's a whole bunch of promissory notes. Will you buy them? Give us your cash, and we'll spend that cash.
That's not really how it works. They just offer it on the open market, and whoever wants them buys them. The reason people buy them is because they think that the U.S. government is reliable and that it will pay back on its debt and that it has the cash flow, namely our tax payments, to support the payments
But hasn't that always been a pretty good assumption? I mean, when Saddam Hussein is pulled out of some hole, he's got a handgun and a suitcase full of $750,000 American. I mean, I like that. The American dollar has been the gold standard for the last half of a century.
But there's a reason for that, and that's because the government obligations have been comfortably within the ability of the tax payments to make those payments. As if your income, you put it back on a household level. I've got credit card payments, let's say. I keep my credit card payments down to the point where my income can comfortably make those payments. What happens is when your credit card payment gets to the point where it takes your entire income, you've got problems. And that's where the U.S. is going. In the last 20 years, we've gotten ridiculously profligate. And
one more question.
Our credit card limit's about to expire.
If other people in the market, other countries, other investors don't want to buy up our bonds, so we're going to go out and issue debt, and we say, here's the bonds we want to sell you, so we can buy, so please buy these so we can have your cash. What happens when they don't? And that's starting to happen.
Interest rates will have to go up. That's the only way to make them
in order to lure them to, but they might say no.
In order to make them more attractive. In fact, the Mercator Center has out a paper that talks about what they call is that actual debt crisis. When will it be? Well, there's no way to know, but we are clearly headed in that direction.
All right, so.
And interest rates goes up. If interest rates go up, then the cost of everything goes up, and we squash
including the debt.
Yeah, absolutely. Everything goes up.
All right, so right now, if we issue debt and nobody buys it, there's a term for that called monetizing the debt. And basically, all you're doing then is printing money. Is that the best way to put it?
Not necessarily. I mean, you got to think about it separately.
Government's spending money.
No, government wants to buy something.
Right.
All right. There's two ways it can get the money to buy something. It can print up the bills and hope somebody will take meaningless paper in exchange for like a tank. All right. Or it can say, here, I'll give you an IOU. Give me some meaningless paper so that I can buy a tank. okay? Maybe the people won't accept its debt anymore. And this has happened in other countries. And so then it goes, well, I'm going to print all these pieces of paper. That would be what you're saying, monetizing the debt. But there's nothing that forces people to accept the paper either.
I like to carry around with me. And
Exactly.
I don't know if you can get a close-in shot of this. I'll hold it here for a second. This is great. I've got a $100 trillion note from Zimbabwe and a $50 trillion note. These are real. I've got $150 trillion.
You could pay off the unfunded liabilities.
Right. And I'm willing to pay you when I pay you.
Will it buy you a cup of coffee? No.
In 2008, their inflation was so awful because of what you just described. They had what was known as hourly inflation. Every hour, the merchants would come out on their vending stands and change the prices. They had, 200 million% inflation in 1 year?
I think those used to buy a loaf of bread.
Right.
But they don't anymore because of the inflation in Zimbabwe.
Yeah, just go onto eBay, buy some for yourself. You're gonna love this. It's good stuff. All right, are we heading this way?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah,
That's it?
we are. Well, we are. I mean, you cannot continue to spend more than what you take in.
Oh, you never met my uncle.
Who's now in debtor's prison. No, we don't have debtor's prison anymore. But you can't do it. You can't do it with a household, and women get that. We have household budgets. You can't. Sustainable economics says you can only spend as much as you take in. Be a good steward of your financial resources. And women, especially those who run a household budget, and let's face it, most women make those sort of retail decisions about their households. They understand that, but they have a government that doesn't.
Let me put out the sexist question. Well, then why is it that so many of us, including women who run the budgets, who do the shopping, understand that they've got to do the credit card and it's all got to work out, why don't we get this? How the hell did we get into a position where each and every one of us owes $44,000? That's in today's dollars, and that's not even for the promises of future spending. That's just for the spending we've done now.
Right.
How do we get here?
Because women were, and I would lay this on part of it, and Linda, of course, is really the brainiac here. She can tell you the economic side of it. But seriously, we have, and women have believed this, mothers have believed this, that government spending, we've heard the paradigm or the motto over and over again, we need this tax increase, we need to do this, we need to do that, we need to spend more, it's for the children. And it really never has been. So what you've gotten are these bloated bureaucracies. You've gotten out of control spending. You've gotten wasteful government. And now it's time to pay the piper. I mean, we absolutely have to stop spending. You'd have to do it in a household. You have to do it at a government level. And that's why we say, government spending is not a family value. It wasn't before, and it isn't now.
But it's always been part of what we do. I remember the spending during the Reagan years. I remember the debt during the Reagan years. And we seem to pull ourselves out of that debt. Why can't we pull ourselves out of this debt? This is the exact same way.
Well, Reagan presided over a growing economy and also a Congress that was pretty careful about its spending. That was the fact that they continually narrowed the gap was one reason that Bill Clinton ran a surplus, a very small surplus during his administration. What you have to remember that Congress controls the spending, the U.S. government spending, specifically the House of Representatives. A lot of people forget that. If Congress doesn't authorize it, it doesn't get spent, at least in theory. One of the things that has happened for a long time is people have believed government because it's had a good reputation. We need to build this bridge. We need to fund green energy. But lately it's become so nonsensical, and they're just throwing money into such rat holes that I think people are starting to pay attention. I mean, the classic was the bullet train from Milwaukee, Wisconsin to Madison, Wisconsin for $800 million. It's a drive of 90 minutes in the worst possible traffic. And the Obama administration is trying to get this built. This is such an outrageous waste of money that somebody's running in Wisconsin against this.
But it's a stimulus. It's a stimulus. What about the Keynesian argument? The Keynesian argument that we take this money, we get it, we spend it, and that primes the pump.